The Cyberdyne System Series 800 Terminator, or the T-800, is a type of Terminator mass-produced by Skynet. The T-800 Terminator was Skynet's first cybernetic organism with living tissue over a hyper-alloy endoskeleton. This made it Skynet's first successful infiltrator unit, capable of infiltrating the Resistance. The T-800 model was the first in a line of Series 8 Terminators in various timelines, including the T-850 and the T-888 Terminators. The 800 series Terminator contains a neural net processor CPU, or learning computer, contained within the endoskeleton and protected by inertial shock dampers. The CPU, developed by Cyberdyne Systems, is one of the most powerful microprocessors ever built. As part of its vast internal databases, the T-800 contains detailed files on human anatomy and physiology, so as to make it a more efficient killer. The CPU could also be updated with multiple database files related to advanced infiltration techniques, basic training for soldiers, emergency medical training, sniper training, an extensive tactical database, and detailed files from other Terminators, making each unit a combat veteran. The hyper-alloy endoskeleton of the T-800 is a microprocessor-controlled, triple-armored combat chassis, and is constructed with frictionless bearings in its joints and a servo-actuated control system. Its limbs are controlled by axial drive motors and clavicular trailing links, allowing the T-800s to maneuver faster than the T-600 Terminators, as bursts of up to 22 miles per hour no longer threatened the joint assemblies. The T-800 was also 20% lighter and 40% stronger than the T-600. The armoured frame is capable of withstanding most contemporary weapons and small caliber, and sometimes even withstanding a direct hit from grenade launchers. Unlike their T-600 cousins, who could easily be dispatched via a well-aimed gunshot or burst the firepower to the cranium, the T-800 is more resistant to certain forms of attacks. The exact extent of what they can endure is subject to their specific circumstances, but the general consensus is that most have displayed remarkable resilience to both conventional and unconventional combat engagements that would leave its predecessors as a pile of scrap metal. The T-800, while vulnerable to most plasma-based weaponry, was at least partially resistant to the weaker plasma weapons used by HK flying mini-hunters. The T-800s are extremely resistant, however, to small arms fire, up to and including 5.56mm NATO assault rifle rounds. However, .50 BMG sniper rifle bullets are sufficient enough to penetrate their armoured chassis, capable of disabling or even decapitating a T-800 with a single, perfectly aimed shot. The abilities of the T-800 are many, and as such they have a heads-up display featuring a tracking marker, and they are capable of running internal systems checks, calculating the distance of objects relative to itself, targeting with their precision heads-up display, making detailed kinetic studies of trajectories, sampling and analysing the atmosphere, weather patterns and wind velocity, analysing human emotional states in order to assess possible hostility, and of course, analysing body language and the direction of muscular contraction. They can also calculate the force of gravity, analysing texture and temperature of materials, and sensing radar scans. And they are also fitted with an internal chronometer. In order to keep track of its battle units, the Cyberdyne Systems had given each one a series number. The series number refers to the type of internal structure or chassis. However, the 800 series also has different configurations of living tissue, each one giving it the appearance of a different person. The physical appearance of the living tissue, which was initially based on photographic records from Skynet's databases and laser scans of human soldiers, is therefore also given a model number. The inert T-800s are housed within a large vault-like cold storage room. Massive doors of steel, equipped with electronic locking bolts, bar the entrance to this facility, and the T-800s hang in their steel racks from tracks mounted in the ceiling. Hundreds of flesh-covered T-800s are stored like this. They are arranged in rows of 10s, where each of the bodies within each row are absolutely identical, each of the same model. Each body hangs in its own cryogenic hypermatrix. This cryogenic storage and the vacuum-sealed room ensures the T-800's flesh will not decay or enter into a state of necrosis from exposure to warm, oxygenated air that may contain pathogens. The living tissue makes it very difficult for humans to identify the T-800s. A significant number of these infiltration units have therefore been able to breach their defenses and slaughter resistance fighters. However, trained sniffer dogs posted at checkpoints are effective at detecting this new threat. How the sniffer dogs are trained is not entirely clear. The T-800s being deployed straight onto the battlefield as soldiers do not need a disguise and so do not receive a biological covering. These units therefore do not need to be stored in the cryogenic chambers and are stored in a huge rack-covered chamber when not needed. A set of massive robotic manipulator arms stationed in the center of the chamber selects battle units when they are needed to be used in service. Skynet controls its battle units using a direct link command, an operating mode known as the Hive, where the battle units are hooked directly into Skynet and share a collective conscious. However, there are hundreds of autonomous Terminators not under Skynet's direct control. This is the second form of operating mode and is known as Rogue. In this mode, battle units are independent of Skynet, but are programmed to return and download information. Of course, the 800 series are also equipped with vocals, which enable it to replicate any human speech pattern of which it has heard an adequate specimen. It does this by recording and storing syllables of the subject's voices, which it then replays and uses to digitally synthesize their speech patterns. The T-800's auditory sensors are located upon either side of its head, where human ears would be. One ear records the full unequalized range of external sounds, while the other can automatically filter signals to within a narrow range for a specific auditory signal. The T-800's optical sensors can sample an extended range of visible frequencies, including infrared, which can allow it to see heated bodies in total darkness, and this information is then displayed on a 40,000-bit digitized display. Concussion-proof lenses protect the T-800's eyes, which are capable of moving independently. When using both of their eyes to track two different targets moving in different directions, the depth perception is created artificially by creating a computer-generated off-angle ghost image. The T-800 is of course capable of motion tracking, search modes, facial identification and recognition, and has extensive vision enhancement capabilities, including long-range zoom, motion analysis and night vision. Of course, as they are essentially robots, the T-800s do not feel pain and they do not have nerve endings, but they can sense injuries. From hypothesis and speculation, it is possible that the T-800 can do this through the use of impact sensors, or as part of the overall sensor sphere that the unit generates, approximately akin to counter-battery radar. There may be various impact sensors that record localized vibrations in the armor shell and, by extrapolation, sense where the damage in the T-800 living tissue is. The T-800 may also use these sensors to locate threats that are either hidden or out of visual range. This data then allows the T-800 to conduct low complexity self-repairs. If disabled, the T-800 is able to reroute its systems to a secondary alternate power source, thus bypassing any severed connections, damaged circuits or internal impairments. The 800 series also has redundant backup hydraulic systems. Therefore, it is imperative that the resistance determine that any T-800s are totally incapacitated in combat, lest the units are able to revive themselves and continue battle or pursuit of their target. And of course, as they are combat ready, the offensive capabilities of T-800 are also vast. The T-800 has a functional period of 120 years on one power cell. This small, compact nuclear power cell is located in the same approximate position as a human's heart, and is shielded in a case-hardened sub-assembly inside the triple-armoured hyperalloy torso. A powerful enough shot directly hitting its power cell would disable the unit. The T-800 is, however, also capable of a conservation or economy mode. It does this by collecting and storing excess energy in combat energy sinks. In this mode, power is cut to 40% of nominal function. Optical systems are switched to infrared only, and motivation units lose 40% hydraulic pressure as pumps slow. In this state, the T-800 power cell can last almost indefinitely. The T-800 is generally issued with a Westinghouse M27 phased plasma battle rifle in the 40-watt range, or they are equipped with a General Dynamics RBS-80 phased plasma pulse gun. However, it is programmed to be able to use all military documented weaponry. The 800 series, for example, is extremely efficient in the use of a .45 long slide automatic. The model 1887 Winchester lever-action shotgun, the Frenchy Spaz 12 shotgun, the M79 grenade launcher, and the M134 minigun. Because of its ability to learn, it is able to defeat its more advanced series such as the T-1000 Terminator in combat on occasion. However, any particular advantage would be countered if Skynet were to set these units to learn as well. The Terminator unit, as we know it, is the infiltrator model of the T-800. It is covered with living tissue, including flesh, skin, hair, blood, and bodily fluids. The T-800 has a circulatory system which is controlled by a tiny pneumatic pump which generates a constant pressure. This allows the T-800 to bleed convincingly when wounded. As the tissue is living, it is warm to the touch, and therefore the T-800 will not show different from a real human on thermal scanners. In addition, since the tissue is as real as those of humans, it can bleed, sweat, and even age. All those features allow a T-800 to infiltrate any group. It has also been shown that given enough time, a T-800 can in fact regrow its tissue sheath, at least if it's not completely destroyed. However, as they are effectively robots, they are not immortal, and they can be destroyed. A .50 Browning machine gun caliber rounds or armor-piercing bullets made of depleted uranium can in fact penetrate its endoskeleton, disabling and even destroying the unit. Extreme forces, such as intense explosions, could permanently dislocate limbs and disrupt the internal frame, possibly even destroying it. Pipe bombs jammed between its joints, for instance, can blow a T-800 in half. Nevertheless, the upper half torso can remain functional, albeit with a severed left arm. Razor-sharp edges, such as metallic pipe, steel rods, or shrapnel can pierce into the endoskeleton armor plates if propelled with sufficient force, disabling the cyborg, and even decapitating it. Unlike the other series made of non-solid material, such as the liquid-based T-1000, the T-800 could naturally be crushed or destroyed by a tremendous amount of pressure, such as a hydraulic press. Furthermore, the T-800 was at least partially susceptible against electronic attacks, such as an overcurrent, as compared to the more vulnerable T-850 and the T-888. Plasma weapons could penetrate the armor and destroy a T-800 unit, though the T-800 endoskeleton is more resistant to molten steel and corrosive reagents, such as concentrated hydrochloric acid as compared to the weaker T-1000. It can ultimately be destroyed if exposure to the aforementioned substances could be achieved for an extended period of time. And of course, the endoskeleton can be affected by age. After operating over 40 years since 1973, the Guardian in Terminator Genesis had trouble with his servo motors degrading, causing lockups on his knee and in his hand. He stated specifically that it was due to age. Given the fact that T-800s have power cells that can sustain them for hundreds of years, this may have to do with lack of proper maintenance over that period of time. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. As always, I have been Mr. H, and I will catch you in the next video.